How do, and welcome back to Pez RC. This is episode 4, I believe, of the Mammoth repaint, and in this one we're trying to do some kind of highlighting. Now I've already spent, if you look at the spend, I'll just spin you around here. Already spent quite a bit of time going through all these different colours, trying to colour match something close to what the original. Let me just get a piece. Not very prepared, to the original Army Painter green, and then something that's also a little bit lighter. I went all the way through the Viejo colours, including the model colour as well as the Model Air, and nothing was anywhere near. They were all darker, or they were browner. The closest thing I got was this Africa Corps tank crew. But again, it was very, very light and browny. Could have used it as a highlight, as a push, but what I did switch to was I went through the mission models. Now I've got a lot of these mission models because they were sent over to me by Mission Models very kindly a while back. I've used them on quite a few things, and the good thing about them is they give you a really good matte finish. Now these are RAL colour matched, so this is RAL 6011. Now this is Residagron, which is the colour. Obviously I've monstered that, but this seems to be pretty close colour match to the original base colour, which is a good start, because it means that, like on what I've done here, it's still wet. I've gone in with this colour now and blended back some of the shading that was a bit too intense, and feathered it a little bit. So now I've got a good start point, so I can go over, especially on these where it was hard to get in properly, and it sort of made a mess of some of these. I can go in with this now and feather those edges up where you can see where it's kind of just like a bigger run of wash, it looks like almost. I can put some in the middle on these panels now and blend that in, hopefully. So I'll have to do that all the way through. Now, Mission Models paints, you do have to add a polyurethane mix additive, and also you have to add a fair bit of, I add thinner and I add flow improver as well, because they are quite thick, the paints, when they come out. But after you've done a little bit of basic alchemy, you get a nice consistency, and like it's not pleasant stuff. You've got to make sure you're wearing a good respirator, like I said before. But they're good paints. I like them a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the whole thing like that, and then what I'm thinking is I might do is I might just add white or something that's close to white into a pot and mix just a lighter version of this, and then do the highlights with this, because that'll give me a fairly good close match for the highlights, because it's the same paint. And it's always one thing you can do is go up one by adding white, and obviously if you want to go down one, you add a bit of black. So I'll crack on with that and show you the results. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, as it's drying, I've noticed it is obviously slightly different colour, so I'm going to try and avoid the high spots that I'm going to do with the lighter colour, just to help it a little bit and modulate it a bit. It's trying to break up the areas of colour here to stop it looking flat. So like I'm going down the middle of these parts, but trying to avoid the edges of each panel, if you know what I mean. Try to avoid these edges as much as possible, like this one here. You can see the bleed off the first part. I'm going to hit it with some of this now. Remember, I'm not trying to cover it in one go because it's quite thin. You might have to do multiple passes as you go around. There's a lot of water in this line. Need to get another filter in this, I think, to filter out the water. See there, put too much on and it's running. Just ignore it for now. There's no point trying to address that now, because as soon as you touch it with anything, it will make a mess. So you just gotta leave it and address it afterwards. Still got some quite, can't really see them on the camera as good. Some quite stark edges here, so I'm gonna. It's still drying, so I can't put too much on. Okay, so it's still drying a little bit, but you can see it doesn't look like we've done a lot, but we have made the shading more subtle. There are less hard edges on the shading. It still gives us all the effects that we need when the light hits it, and it's broken up all of the flat panels. And we've got some, you know, like the simulated sort of water streaks and that kind of thing, and general wear around hatches and dirt around air intakes and that kind of thing. You get the picture. More importantly, like I said, we've found the match for an airbrush the same as the rattle can, which is pretty cool. Because now I'm going to add this. I haven't got any white left, so I'm going to add this, which is Deck Tan. It's very, very creamy white anyway. I'm going to mix that in the pot, so I'm going to have to be careful and try and gauge how many drops that I use, because I want to, every time I refill it, I've got to mix a similar colour. But I don't want to go mad with it. I want to put, I want it slightly lighter than this base colour. Now, I mean, really, if you wanted to, you could leave it at this stage and go straight to the weathering stage if you wanted to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just accentuate some of the extreme high parts. I'm not going to go too far with it. And that way, it might look a bit crazy when it's finished, but when you hit it with the filter, then hopefully the filter will bind it all together and bring it back down into one unified colour. We'll see, won't we? At the end of the day, you just got to go for it. So we'll mix up some colour and see where we go from there. Let's give it a go on this piece here, why not? See, it's a lighter colour there. It always looks lighter when it's sprayed than when it dries. And also when it's hit with the filter, it will go down again. But if you don't make it so it contrasts now, it never will contrast. That's what you've got to remember. So I think we're going to go with that. I'm hoping that I've mixed up enough in here to do the whole thing in one go. And it's best to do little bits, move on, go around, come back if you need to, adding bits to it, rather than keep piling it on and then wish you'd never put it on. Obviously try not to go over any of the shaded areas that you've already done, because that's pointless. So we're hitting centre panels a tiny bit just to give a difference in colour, if you can see. And anything that's raised or an edge, we're giving that a bit of a blip. Like here, I've just done the top at the moment, but I'm probably going to do a line down this side as well. Oops, that was a mistake, look at that. Best leave that. Come back to that. Move on to the front. Now you always want to try and start your spray off rather than starting it on. You will get a ball if you start pointing towards it. Same when you spin an aerosol can. Spray off to the side, move on to the piece. Always the same if you can. Obviously sometimes you can't. But if you aren't, try and move out for the start and move in. I think we'll call that a day for you guys. Hope you can tell there's some hard, you can tell more on the hatches. There you go. It's harder to see on the screen for you guys than it is for me. But around the edges, on top of these kind of areas, there's a highlight. Some lines, some streaking they put in at this stage, and we've got three subtle tones. Now that's the key, I think, is to make them soft edged and subtle. You can only do it with an airbrush, really. There is some work we're going to do with a brush, where we're putting some pin washing, where we're putting wash on with the brush directly where we want it to go so that it pools. That's pin washing, and we're going to do that as well. Also going to be using some oil brushes, and because we need to accentuate the areas like around these hatches and hinges and that kind of thing to make them stand out more than they are now. Although they don't look too bad now. The main thing with this shading is it's give the pin washing a little bit to accentuate the pin washing and vice versa. If you get my drift, what I'm trying to do here. The key is that it's subtle and there's no hard edges on the shading. It is the main thing. And the idea is to add some decals now, some stickers, so that the next stages with the weathering will make the decals and the numbering look like it's been on there all the time. There's no point getting to the end of your weathering, sticking the decals on, and they look like they're brand new, because they will be brand new. So I'm going to leave that at that now. I'm quite happy with that, how that's turned out. It's got a lot of different colours breaking up the main flat surfaces, and we're good to go. Okay, so we're all together now, just to give you an overview of what we've done so far. It's quite subtle, and that's what we're looking for. So I've kind of give shadows to certain areas. I don't know why this won't focus. Broken up areas here that are quite sort of large. Broken up the door areas with some areas with some sort of strokes that went down to break up these panels. Any area at the bottom where you would have dirt that would have run down and left a mark and done some staining, we've added that in at this point if we can. And we've got shadows around areas that make details pop out a little bit more. And that's what we're trying to do. There are 3 colours on here. I know it only looks like there's 2 at the moment because there's a lot of shading. But it doesn't matter how many there is, it's supposed to look kind of green and have a bit of depth to it. That's what we're looking for. We're not trying to put a zillion different applications on. Okay, so the next step will be the decals application, and then we'll look at a filter, or we may look at putting some before the filter. Actually, we'll look at putting some weathering, some wear marks and areas that have rubbed and that kind of thing. So we'll do some sponging and we'll do some pin washing. Thanks for watching.